Hello and welcome to the 44 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Tonight's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. Also want to say thank you to Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play from youth leagues to the big leagues. Easy to use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level of the sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information. We are getting ready for weekend 9. It's week 9 of the college baseball season. And we've sent our assistant coaches on the road, Kendall. You can see the great Kendall J. Rogers there. We sent Fitzy and Joe on the road, said, go recruit. You're not helping us. Just go find players.
Well, you know what? Since they're not on here, we can rag on them. So the truth is, once it gets past about 9 o'clock Eastern, it's past Fitz bedtime, and Joe just kind of starts slowing down a little bit. So we'll rag on Fit. It's past his bedtime right now. So.
Yeah, and I would say Joe's Joe's original research project, because he's a great researcher, was Kurt Reed, the origin of Kurt Reed. His new research,
maybe that's where he is.
Yeah, that's right. He's like an undercover investigator in the bowling alleys of Central Illinois. Actually, his new investigative piece is, why does Aaron Fitt hate the language of French so much? Is this a great cracker dispute? We know Fitzy takes his Westchester or whatever crackers. Worcester. What are those Westminster crackers? He takes them very seriously, and I think the French take their breaded thingamajiggers seriously. So maybe that's the origin of the controversy.
That's where baguettes originate from, right?
Yeah. Have the Rogers ever been to Europe, Kendall, or no? You guys have not.
Yeah, we have. So
my
wife and I went to Rome and Greece about, I don't know, I lose track now. That was probably 2012 maybe? 2011?
Oh, wow.
I can't remember, but at the time she was 6 or 7 months pregnant. And if you've ever been to Rome in the middle of the summer, it's not very cool.
Oh, man.
It's very, very hot. But it was an awesome trip. Northern Greece was the most surprising place I've ever been. It was beautiful. Nobody knew English, which I actually thought was awesome.
Oh, wow.
No, it was great. So if you can ever get to Northern Greece, go for it.
So it sounds like you would recommend Greece over Rome. No offense to Rome, but Greece
over
Italy.
Rome was cool. We're going to try to go to Italy in a couple of years. I made the mistake of telling my daughter or telling my son that when he turns 13, we can go on any trip he wants. He wants to go to Italy. So if we do it, this go around will be northern Italy, like Florence, Milan, stuff like that. I think Milan's the northern part of the country, but yeah, I know Florence is. But we're gonna try to do that. So yeah, that is the extent of my European vacations. What about you?
Never. I don't own a passport. It's an embarrassment. I've been to 47 states, and I've never been out of the country. I've been to Puerto Rico.
Not even Mexico?
Never been to Mexico. I took one of my Malvern prep teams to Puerto Rico to play baseball, but never been to Mexico. Yeah, never been to Canada. It's bizarre. And I've been all over the United States. I've been to Alaska, but that's still the U.S.
Yeah, so. that counts. Alaska does count. But by the way, since this is a baseball podcast, I got to give Ben Upton from 11-7 podcast a little bit of credit here for the stat. But Charlie Condon runs with 2 bombs tonight. Now has 48 home runs in 90 college games in his career.
It's incredible.
Is that good?
That is good. When coming into the weekend, he was out homering 58 other teams. It's kind of a junior version of what Chris Bryant did in 2013. So,
yeah.
KR, let's do this. Let's jump around and we'll just kind of go from league to league and talk about some conferences. Let's start with the SEC. And it's interesting, I know people get upset when they feel like, there's SEC propaganda out there and you go on and on. But one of the things that does make the SEC the granddaddy of all of our conferences is that every series is compelling. It just is. Even Georgia at Mizzou is compelling because Charlie Condon's in the series, right? The potential player of the year is in that series. So what stands out to you in the SEC this weekend?
Well, I got to start where I'm going to be at least one of the days, and maybe two. It's College Station. When you look at A&M against Vanderbilt, Vandy coming off the series win at LSU, run ruling them in the series finale. Bryce Cunningham wasn't awesome in Baton Rouge last weekend, but Carter Holt was very good. Braden Holcomb had two home runs. Speaking of two home runs, had two home runs in one of their wins over the weekend. So I'm very intrigued just to see Vanderbilt's pitching staff in College Station, especially Grayson Carter, because when you look at A&M, I think the weather this week is supposed to be like low 80s and windy with winds out to left field. As we all know, that place can be a launching pad. And when you look at the top of the A&M lineup, obviously they get into home runs. Jackson Appel, their 4 or 5 hole hitter, had a couple of home runs on midweek game of the day. So that's a series that you can classify as the biggest series of the weekend. But South Carolina, Florida, for different reasons, right? Like both those teams did a series win. Mm-hmm. Florida, I think more than South Carolina, just because I think Florida, like if you're going to get right and you're going to turn this thing around, I think South Carolina homes a series you need to win. So Sully has TBA as a Saturday starter at the moment. So they don't know what they're going to do with that just yet. So I mean, honestly, as much as I'm intrigued to see the series result, I'm intrigued to see like how Florida comes out this weekend. Like, is there a little bit of fire in their belly after what happened at Columbia last weekend? Arkansas and Alabama is big for the Crimson Tide. They're in desperate need of a series win this weekend against Arkansas. Mississippi State at Ole Miss. Ole Miss needs a series win. Mississippi State finally get something to fall their way late in the game last weekend and win the Georgia series. Very intrigued, Runes, to see what Ole Miss's pitching does this weekend. They really scuffled on the mound. They were a little bit better against Arkansas last weekend, but how do they do against the Bulldogs? They're a team, frankly, they need to win this series if they're going to turn things around. And then the last one, LSU at Tennessee. This is an interesting series for me because there's no team in this conference that would love to put LSU in its grave more than Tennessee and more than Tony Vitello. Yet, Lindsey Nelson is one of those ballparks that even with Tennessee having a sizable advantage, like LSU can run into a few balls in this ballpark, and all of a sudden the complexion of the series is totally different. So I'm excited about this one because I think LSU's got a little fight in them. I think that they know that Tennessee would love nothing more than to rough them up. So I think LSU's going to throw a few haymakers this week, and we'll see if they can land them.
Yeah, and by the way, Kentucky at Auburn is in the 9th right now, 6-5 ball game, which is super interesting. How about this on LSU Tennessee, Kendall? So, again, if I'm going to spew out SEC propaganda, I might as well just like be, if you're going to be a Bear, be a Grizzly. One of the other things that the SEC does, which is a choice, it's not a privilege, but Ben Beatty, their baseball SAD, every week emails all of us, anybody on that distro list, the pitching probables. No other league does that. No other league even considers doing that. And I'm just telling you, like, the SEC is the best at hyping up their league. They're just awesome at it. And that series you mentioned, LSU at Tennessee, it's interesting. Jay Johnson he's turning his lineup around. He's got Jared Jones, Bear Jones, hitting leadoff, apparently.
As we all expected, right? I mean, I had Jared Jones hitting leadoff in my preseason prognostications.
I love it. I love it.
No, not really.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, here's why I love it, Kendall. So, by the way, I have Texas Tech this weekend. We'll get to them. Ooh. Gavin Cash. What's his name?
Is it Gavin Cash? Yeah.
Yeah. He hits leadoff for Tech because they did that when Kevin Bizzell was out, and it worked so well. And the 2005 Sun Devils, I was not on the staff that year, but they led Jeff Larish off. If you remember when Jeff Larish hit those 3 home runs against Nebraska, he was the leadoff hitter for that Arizona State team. So I'm all for power hitters hitting leadoff. But here's what's really intriguing to me. LSU will go Gage Jump on Friday, not Luke Holman. Luke Holman's going Saturday, and then TBA on Sunday. Tennessee is going TBA on Friday, then Drew Beam, which means AJ Causey. I don't know what they're doing there, and then Drew Beam, and then Xander Sechrist. So, I could see this. I think if you're LSU, this is what has to happen. Your offense has to win one of these games, and then Gage Jump and Luke Holman, they need to pair with Griffin Herring because he's been the one reliable reliever. They have to win the Griffin Herring game. And then that's 2 wins. I don't think they can sweep Tennessee at Tennessee, but I could see them winning the series.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing for LSU is, much respect to Michael Braswell for hitting, 333 in conference. But Michael Braswell should not be LSU's leading hitter in conference.
Correct.
Yeah, 333 right now with a 480 OBP. So actually pretty good. But the fact that he is your leading hitter, that's not great. So
yep.
I'll be curious to see that. And the other guy for me this weekend, Nate Ackenhausen, he was such a big piece for LSU within the last year, especially in Omaha. 4 appearances, runs in SEC play, and an ERA of 9. So again, small sample size, but he needs to be better than that.
Yeah,
and for them to win this series, he's going to be a lot better than that. Gavin Guidry not much better at 10.38.
Yeah, if you want to make your eyes bleed, do that. Go on our site, pull up LSU stats, then switch the toggle from overall to conference and look at their bullpen arms. And you're right, small sample size, but it's a bunch of really talented arms with bad numbers.
Had a few daiquiris tonight. I would suggest it.
Daiquiris. Well, just to be clear, you are recommending the daiquiris. It's the stats that you're not recommending when mixed with the daiquiri.
I'm just trying to find somebody an excuse to drink more daiquiris.
That's
what I'm trying to do.
That's right. Yes. Very good.
By the way, here's an NA banter topic. In Arizona, I'm guessing they do not have drive-through daiquiri places like they do here in Texas.
No, well, not that I'm aware of, but
that's one of the awesome
what is a drive-through daiquiri place? Talk to me.
So here in Houston, and really it was big in East Texas because we're really close to the Louisiana border. But this like Cajun influence, we have like drive-through like beer places and drive-through daiquiri places. Like I can go through a drive-through right now and get like a 40-ounce daiquiri with like a double shot. Now, obviously, you have to keep the tape on the lid and you can't open it while you're driving. But yeah, you can drive and go through there and get it like a daiquiri, and it's like all over the place in Louisiana.
That's amazing.
Like I'm pretty sure like I'm pretty sure gas stations like have daiquiri places.
That's next level. In Arizona, you can do drive-through booze, but it's not not drive-through drinks. It's drive-through case of beer, drive-through bottle of wine, like that.
Yeah, during the COVID year when we had our season canceled, I might have taken advantage of the to-go margaritas quite a bit.
The Margs, as we like to say. Speaking of Margs, let's go to the ACC. So Ken, I'll give you 3 series that jumped out at me, and you can pick from there, or you can pick a different one. Miami at Florida State. That was a really good game tonight. Florida State did pull that out. Joe Charles is a cool story. He's worth looking up if you don't know his story. UVA at Louisville is of interest to me, and then NC State at Clemson. So go ahead, pick from there, or pick a one totally different.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Louisville is an interesting team to me. They started to play a little bit better. If you look at what they've done in conference play so far, the guys at the top of the order started to get going a little bit. Eddie King Jr. hitting 393 in conference. Isaac Humphrey, just a really athletic guy who seems like he's been there forever. Gavin Keelan is hitting over 300 in conference. So Louisville is starting to play a little bit better. But I think this weekend will be a really, really good litmus test for them because all of a sudden, if they win this series, they're still in a rough spot RPI wise. I want to say they're still like in like the 80s or something like that. I looked the other day, but yeah, I mean, if they win this series, I think things start trending the right way for them. So I've got my eye on that series. I'll be very curious to see if Louisville can make a big statement this weekend against a really, really sound, really hard hitting Cavaliers club.
Yeah. I mean, Virginia's offense is just so scary, but you do feel like you can score on them. Kendall, let me ask you a question because I think this is good. I think our site has so many features that sometimes people just don't know. So when I ask you about, like you said, you wanted to talk about Louisville right there. So you go to our site. Like I tried to pretend I was you and follow you. Here's what I did. I went to our site. I pulled up the conference drop down. I hit the ACC because I was curious what Louisville's record was in the league. It's 6-6. Then I hit Louisville, then I hit stats, and then I changed overall to conference. Is that kind of your go-to move there?
That is, especially this time of year. Like overall, just doesn't mean a lot to me. It's all about what you did in conference.
Very good. I will tell you that NC State and Clemson is very interesting to me because I think I'm worried about NC State. I don't know what Louisville's RPI is 94, by the way. I'm a little worried about NC State's inconsistencies. Like, are they going to run themselves into a problem at some point by, like getting swept? And I don't know. Like, I don't know what to make of North Carolina State. They were 45 in the RPI, so they're still in a decent spot. That's of interest to me. And, Miami at Florida State. Miami is up for it. But this is a good test for Florida State. Jamie Arnold was just nasty tonight. Credit Miami for getting on him a little bit. Let's go to the Big 12, KR. By the way, here's an exercise I'm going to do, Kendall. I'm very convinced that the ACC is having its strongest year ever as far as the impact they're going to have on the postseason. And one of the things I want to do in the next week, I might do it on my flight tomorrow, is I'm going to line up the SEC teams by RPI. And then in a column right next to there on an Excel file, I'm going to line up the ACC teams by RPI. And there's probably a better way to do that. But I feel like I feel like it's not going to be obvious for me to say, yeah, give me the SEC column. I feel like I'm going to be going back and forth. So there you go. I think, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. No, you're right. It's going to be really interesting just looking at these various leagues and looking at the Big 12 this weekend. You mentioned that league. I think that the series that I'm really looking forward to, frankly, is UCF and West Virginia. West Virginia, they played okay earlier in the season, but they're a team that now that JJ Weatherholt's back in the mix, they have a lot more confidence. They've taken care of business the last couple of weekends. Their last series loss was Oklahoma State at home, and that was without Weatherholt. So Weatherholt just changes the whole just kind of complexion of their attitude, their lineup, etc. And so getting UCF at home, who, we talked about UCF the other day on the podcast with the job that Dom Castellano and, Chase Santala and guys like that have done. Rich Wallace has done an amazing job in year one. So just to see if UCF, who is right now in the top 25, and West Virginia kind of knocking on the door, that'll be a very intriguing series to me. And then the other one, Kansas State at Oklahoma. If there's a team right now that needs to rally a little bit, it's Oklahoma. Their RPI is taking a little bit of a dive. Their conference record's taking a little bit of a dive. And, they're coming off a tough series at Oklahoma State. This after, by the way, getting swept at home by Lamar. So Oklahoma, at home against Kansas State. And let's face it, there's not a lot of love lost between Pete Hughes and Oklahoma in general. So that'll be an interesting series.
You know what's so funny, Kendall? When I was thinking the same thing, like Kansas State will be up for Oklahoma, and where my brain went was they felt like Oklahoma stole their bid last year. They did finish 2 games ahead of Oklahoma and swept Oklahoma.
They did actually, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't even think about Pete Hughes used to work at Oklahoma. That part I had erased from my memory. So good pull there.
Yeah, Pete is not shy about his thoughts on Oklahoma.
The exit interview was probably less than polite. That's all right. We love that.
Yeah, they did not call. Joe Castiglione does not have Pete Hughes on his references call. Good thing for Joe. He's established enough. He doesn't need references anymore.
Yeah, that's right. It's all good. We all, like a lot of us are going to be friends, but we don't all have to be friends. It's all good. Tech at TCU is interesting because TCU is still their resume is still viable, except for they can't finish 12th in the Big 12, right? They've done some things, but man, they've bottomed out in the Big 12. And we talked about that on the Monday pod. It's interesting, Kendall. I have the Saturday game as I studied Tech and then got to talk to Tads today. Do you know that Texas Tech, if not for 2 one-run losses at Central Florida, they would be on a 12-game winning streak right now? They have won 10 out of 12, and the 2 losses are 1 run. Yeah. And, Kevin Bizzell is back and healthy. I didn't realize he had missed 10 games, and that really hurt him. And they feel like their offense is coming around. They really feel like their position player group's in a good place. I mean, Gage Harrelson, who I love, he can't even get on the field right now. And they feel like their bullpen is starting to come together. So it's interesting. Tech is very interesting to me because I almost view them in 2 eras. I view them the first part of the Tads era where it's like you go to Omaha in 14, 16, 18, and 19, and then post-COVID, it just feels like I know in 19 or whatever year, in 21, they lost the home super to Stanford, but it doesn't seem like they're as good as they were before. But this is a very sneaky Tech team for me.
Yeah, and they're one of those teams. When I saw them earlier this year, they had the potential. But they just weren't, they weren't pitching at a very high level. They were very inconsistent offensively. I think this series for me kind of boils down to what TCU can get offensively. I mean, I'll give you TCU's entire story in a nutshell, and you'll see a little bit of this weekend since you have that series. Anthony Silva in conference play, 245. Carson Bowen in conference play, 188, which floors me. I love Carson Bowen.
Yeah, good player.
188, and Curtis Byrne, who, he's a veteran. He's been there a long time. He's got a lot of experience. He's hitting 167 for him. So when Silva, Bowen, and Byrne are hitting, what was it 245, 188, 188, 167.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's going to be tough for you to score runs. So the big thing for me with TCU down the stretch, they've got to get more offensive.
Yeah, and I think this reminded me of, and then we'll go to the Pac-12 that last year TCU woke up on May 1st and they were done. Like they were 23-20. I think they were something like 4-7 or 5-7 in the conference, and they were toast. And then they go on a 19-2 run on their way to an Omaha run, and obviously they go 2-2 in Omaha. So anyway, very interesting. The Big 12 is as fun of a race as we have right now because it's really hard to parse out. So 2 series in the pack for me, Kendall. But again,
Sure.
Whatever you want. Oregon at USC. USC's played way better now, and Oregon has been winning series, but they haven't been dominating opponents. So this will be a good test for Oregon. Now, when I say Oregon at USC, I don't even know what that means. Like, who knows where USC's playing? But God bless them, somewhere in California.
They might be playing at UCI.
Yeah, that's right. Oregon at Irvine by way of USC. And then USC is literally the University of Southern California right now. They will play you anywhere in Southern California, but they're not willing to announce it ahead of time. And then Utah is at Arizona State, and I think Arizona State is vulnerable right now, and if you're Utah, that's a very losable series, but it's also a must-win if you want to be taken seriously as an at-large team.
No, you're right. I mean, it really is a must-win series in that regard. I still think Arizona State, even though they've scuffled this year, that's going to be a tough series for Utah on the road. Out of conference, La Tech at Arizona is really interesting. That's one of those series. La Tech's got a long way to go to get in that large bid RPI-wise, but I mean, that's a series that at the end of the year could actually have some ramifications on who gets potentially in the tournament as an at large. So that's interesting to me. I mean, Stanford, Oregon State coming into the season would have been considered interesting, but Stanford just has really struggled. And then, the only series, oddly enough, on the Pac-12 slate that is ultra intriguing is Oregon at USC, and that's just because USC has played exceptionally well as of late.
Yep, 100%. Kendall, I'm looking it up right now. Could La Tech sneak up and win Conference USA now that Dallas Baptist has been dinged? Yeah, they could.
They could. That race has gotten very interesting.
Yeah, but you're right. Their RPI is not good, and the RPIs in that league are atrocious. Holy heck!
Yeah.
Oh man, interesting. Actually, one more from that league, Kendall, is. Sure. Western Kentucky, who has now gotten really frisky, they are going to Sam, and I know Sam is now 20-13 and only 5-5 over their last 10. But I've never been to Huntsville. Would you consider Sam a tough place to play, Kendall?
Not really. I mean, they'll have, I don't know, 300 people there, maybe 500-600. It's not really tough, but what it is, the elements can be tough. Like if there is a south wind in Huntsville. The ball is just, it is a jet stream out the left field. Actually, the way it's set up is very similar to Blue Ball Park in College Station. Almost set up exactly the same way.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's a trap series for Western Kentucky because obviously they, they're going to have to handle success because, they just won that series over DBU and I don't know, the Sam still has Walker Yannick, and they still have good players, even though they are slumping a little bit.
Yeah, they're a weird team. You watch them in person, and you would think they're a lot better than what their resume shows. They're a pretty solid club, but yeah, Mark Reardon. How about the job that he's done there? That was a program I think won 18 games a year before he got there. They won 30 plus last year. They're on the pathway to doing that yet again. And I think it's with 16 or 17 new players this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they're going out and getting studs out of the transfer portal from D1 schools. They're obviously, with his background in Iowa, they're hitting the junior colleges hard and things like that. So kudos to the job that Coach Reardon's done. I thought it was one of those things that you and I were pretty bullish on what he could do there, but I think a lot of people were skeptical, and rightly so, about a junior college coach going to Division I ranks in a league that, it's not the SEC, but it's still a very competitive baseball league. So he's done a really nice job.
Yeah, and I think he hasn't tried to be something he's not. Like a lot of his staff he hired as junior college head coaches, and it's Conference USA has snuck up on me. That league has turned out to be more than just DBU, even though DBU is the class of it. Outside of some other leagues, Kendall, And I'll rattle off some, and you tell me which one tickles your
All right.
fancy here. FAU at Wichita State, I think, is fun. Both those teams have been pretty dang good. The Big East has a big weekend. St. John's is going to UConn. St. John's having an awesome year. And then Creighton at Xavier. That's another interesting one. And then in the Big Ten, so I'll give you these 5. FAU at Wichita, St. John's at UConn, Creighton at Xavier, Iowa at Ohio State. And Iowa will be without Sam Peterson, which is a bummer. He's a little nicked up. They'll get him back, but he's out right now. And then Nebraska at Rutgers. Rutgers has I just think Rutgers is better than they're playing. And if I'm right, then they have to do something this weekend.
Yeah, I know you are right. Iowa, I mean, that story just stinks on them just being an underachiever this year. We got a long way to go. I'm not just throwing in the towel on the Hawkeyes, but I really thought they were going to be very good this year. And clearly, they just haven't handled it great. They haven't played very consistent. They've been very, very wishy-washy on the mound. Even Brody Brecht has really struggled at times. So we'll see if they can kind of clean things up down the final stretch of the season. But that's been to me, has been one of the bigger disappointments in college baseball. I'll throw another one at you, Runes. I'm going to go West Coast since I'm a noted West Coast homer.
Yes, you are.
San Diego at Portland is actually a really interesting West Coast series with Portland 6-0 in the WCC. Jeff Loomis continues to do a really nice job there. And then San Diego at 7-2, tied with Gonzaga in second place. San Diego, by the way, Runes, has won 10 straight.
San Diego, the Toreros have won 10 in a row?
Correct.
Okay, so Kendall, I'm gonna verbally drive the website right now. So I go to on the right-hand side where you get the drop-down select conference. I go West Coast Conference because first of all, Portland, as we've talked about them. I wrote a fall report on them. Jeff Loomis has done an awesome job. They've finished second in the WCC each of the last 2 years. They're not a flash in the pan. They're really good. And there's good baseball in the Pacific Northwest. Like Oregon State is not just creating this out of thin air. There's good players up there. And so one of the things that's interesting about Portland against San Diego is I believe they have 2 really good arms. I think it's Brink and Randall, but I'm not sure. So I go to the conference standings. The icons across the top are standings, schedule, conference leaders, and news. I'm going to hit conference leaders, and there you go. On pitching, Nick Brink of Portland has 6 wins. I mean, we've barely been playing. He's got a 2.42 ERA. And then Josh Randall of USD, he's got a 3.31 ERA. And they are both way up there in punch-outs. Nick Brink's got 69 punch-outs. So anyway, there you go. Like that quickly. Like Kendall intrigues me with Portland and USD. And next thing I know, I realize that their Friday night matchup.
Yeah, and we added the streak column this year. So now you can go in there and see kind of what a team's doing in terms of their current streak. I don't think we had that until this year.
That is cool. Yes, San Diego.
I'm trying to think of any other intriguing series around the country. It's pretty light.
I have a couple ones. Yes, South.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, the Valley and the MAC. I wrote like the Valley is interesting to me, Kendall, because it's not just Indiana State this year. Illinois State's having a big bounce back. Illinois Chicago seems really good. Southern Illinois seems good. And we know Missouri State's got talent. So the Valley, I keep peeking at the Valley. There's not a great series there this weekend, but I keep peeking at it because I know Indiana State's good, but they're not running away with the league yet. The other league that I wanted to bring up is the MAC. I keep peeking at because Bowling Green is now 12-0, and they're playing Central Michigan, who's really dominated the league. But now Jordan Bischel has gone to Cincinnati, and they're not doing as well this year. So I just am intrigued to see if Bowling Green's going to lose a MAC game this year, or if they're just going to run the table.
Yeah.
Another one is Southeastern Louisiana at Lamar. Southeastern's having a good year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they've been solid, and obviously we wrote about Will Davis and Lamar, last week. It was kind of funny. Will Davis sent me a text today when I wrote about them. I think they lost like 2 days later. And when I wrote the big story about, Louisiana, the Cajuns, their long winning streak, their 15-game winning streak, they lost the next day. So he was wondering if there's a such thing as a Rogers jinx, but I don't believe in jinxes, Runes.
No, there's no such thing. You know what? The Sun Belt is interesting, KR, because in our weekly picks, the series that I struggled with the most, and actually our good friend Chris Gennaro had to ping me because I had 9 of my 10 series selected, was JMU at Old Dominion. I wanted to pick JMU so badly. I ended up picking Old Dominion because they're home. Both of those teams have been very good at home. But the other series, I think Georgia Southern is hosting someone like Coastal or Louisiana. Let me look that up. But they're like Georgia Southern is playing great. They're 18-15, but they're 8-4 in the league.
Yeah, Rodney Hennon's really turned that thing around. I mean, they were not very good early this year.
Yeah, they're hosting Coastal this week. And so, Coastal keeps winning series, etc. I had one more for you, Kendall, in the WAC because I had Grand Canyon this week. GCU, Grand Canyon, who I think that's a team with a lot of upside. The reason I say that is because Danny Avidia, who led the conference in strikeouts as a true freshman and is a prospect, he's not had a great year. And actually, he's skipped a couple starts to kind of get his arm back together, just trying to, he's had some tenderness. And then Zach York has not gotten going yet. And that floored me. And they're still in first place. And then UTA is, they're good. That's a good staff. And they do. It's really cool that Mike Trapasso, by the way, is the pitching coach at UTA. I love that. That's a pretty big move. Head coach at Hawaii to pitching coach at UTA. I like it.
Moving from Hawaii to Arlington is a little different. Not to mention he played at Oklahoma State. So playing in Stillwater, coaching in Hawaii, and by the way, finishing things up in Arlington.
He's also, I think he's from St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Okay, so Kendall, let's wrap with this. Who has better daiquiris, Hawaii or Arlington, Texas? Have the Rogers been to Hawaii?
We have not been to Hawaii. We just go to St. John. We don't go anywhere else.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to say Hawaii because they probably have like fresher like pineapple juice and stuff like that, like fresher juices.
Fresher juices, that's right.
So I'm going to go with Hawaii. That's my uneducated guess. Hey, can I give you one more series real quick while we're here?
Yeah, please.
Because Steve Trimper might be mad at me if I don't mention this. But Stetson and FGCU play this weekend, Runes. Stetson and Jacksonville lead the A-Sun by one game over FGCU. And we talked earlier about, Mark Reardon and Western Kentucky's improvements. But how about this kind of comeback story? Ian Farrow had a really good year at FGCU back in 21 home runs, 74 RBIs. Had a so-so year at Miami. I mean, it wasn't awful. He had 291, 7 homers and 20 RBIs. But Runes, he's back with the Eagles, and he's now hitting .513 with a .566 OBP, 1.459 OPS, and 9 homers. So good on Ian Farrow. He realizes sometimes grass isn't necessarily green on the other side.
Yeah, I like that. You know what I need to learn, Kendall, is like in the Atlantic Sun, there's all these. This is another fun race. I'm going to add that to my keep an eye on it list. So you've got all these Florida schools: Stetson, Jacksonville, Florida Gulf Coast, North Florida, and so let's go with those 4. Like, who are the rivals? So here's my guess. Yeah. My guess is that Jacksonville and North Florida are rivals.
They got to be, yeah.
Yeah, because they're both north. And my guess is that Stetson and Florida Gulf Coast are the other rivals because they're, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that just knowing my man Roland Fanning, I got to say Austin Peay and Lipscomb's probably a little bit of a rivalry.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, they're
given the proximity.
Yeah.
What I really want to know is who's Bellarmine's rival.
The Bellarmine Bells. You know that Chris
coached
Burke's
by former Louisville superstar Chris Dominguez, by the way.
Yeah, and Chris Burke's dad, our good friend Chris from Louisville, his father, known as Big Al. I think both of Berkey's parents are Bellarmine grads. Is it Bellarmine? It's not Bellarmine Bells because we make fun of them for that. Bellarmine.
Well, I can't believe that Berkey chose to go to Tennessee over Bellarmine.
You know that he also was recruited heavily by Pulmonary at Notre Dame, and he snubbed his nose at the Fighting Irish as well.
Well, I always thought you had a little bit of tension there for Berkey, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, so he goes seek his SEC privilege. So Jeremy Scott and D Arkansas are in the chat, and we'll answer these questions, then we can wrap. Does Arkansas beat Bama this weekend? I mean, I think you have to assume Bama's kind of reeling, and I think we just have to assume Arkansas is going to win every series until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I'm with the Hogs. I am on that train until they show me that there's a reason not to believe in it. Even in the weekends, they haven't played amazing baseball. They're still finding ways to win. Like I didn't think they played like awesome against Ole Miss. You turn around and they've swept the series. So Yeah, I'll stick with the Hogs until there's a reason to believe that they won't win a series.
Yep. Okay, so Kendall, let's wrap with this. The Big 12 postseason baseball we know is creeping up on us, and one of our sponsors right now is the Big 12 baseball tournament, which is the Phillips 66 Big 12 baseball tournament. Bigger and better than ever. Obviously, it's the only conference tournament in college baseball played at a major league stadium. It's May 21st to the 25th. 10 teams will vie for that Big 12 title. Climate controlled Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers. It is amazing. It really is. It's the best thing I could tell you about Globe Life is it really feels super big league. And the Big 12 tournament's going to be awesome because there's so much intrigue in that league right now, and you've got marquee players. I mean, JJ Weatherholt could be a top 10 pick. As Kendall has shown us, you can elevate your experience with premium ticket options. There's premier seats, there's club access, complimentary perks that come with that. You can secure your tickets today by visiting globelifefield.com/Big 12, globelifefield.com/Big 12. And it's funny that read came up, Kendall, because the great J-Ro just was texting me while we were going saying, hey, can we have this person come over to the house on May 22nd? I was like, we cannot, because I will not be here. If history repeats itself, I'm hoping that I will be in Arlington at the Big 12 tournament.
There you go. That'd be awesome.
Very good. All right. Well, good job, Kendall. Sometimes it's nice to have the two of us have fun in College Station. I think that's going to be a dandy. That's one of the series where we do know all three starters.
Yeah, it's just two really different teams. I mean, A&M is big on the long ball. They're big on the big inning. Vandy, if you look at their home run numbers in conference play, I want to say they have just 8 or 9 homers as a team. And A&M has over 20. I think they're at 24, 25. So again, two contrasting styles, but two styles that are very successful.
Yeah, amen. And again, as you've said many times, Kendall, to me, the first 3 hitters in that A&M lineup, Grahovic, Laviolette, and then Braden Montgomery, must-see TV. It's the scariest stretch of 3 hitters that we have in college baseball. No offense to Tennessee's lineup where it's kind of 1 through 9. Those 3 kids, it's like 3 big leaguers just snuck into a college game.
Yeah, and they're one of those teams too that, like, even when they lose a game, like, you're just feeling like the other team's holding on for dear life. That's what happened against Florida when they lost that series in that final game. That's what happened against South Carolina when they were going for the sweep and they lost that final game. It's like South Carolina was just holding on. So we'll see. If Vanderbilt is able to play at that level this weekend here in CS.
Yeah. By the way, Kentucky won again. Really
tight.
Yeah. I think Auburn had first and second, nobody out, down 1 run, and Kentucky, they got the
Mad Cats,
right
man.
now.
They're what, 12-1 in conference now. Just as we all predicted.
So
I think Fit predicted them to be 12-1 at this point.
I think nobody, maybe Nick Mingione, predicted it. So, KR, well done. Enjoy College Station. That's it. Everybody enjoy weekend 9. We're almost after on Sunday. We'll be at the halfway point of the Fun Belt and SEC seasons, and that is it. We will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.